Hello students. So today we are going to study about programming languages generation. So as we know, we have one generation language to five generation languages. So we are going to understand what are the advantages of these languages, what are the disadvantages of these languages, and which languages comes under which category. So let's start with that. So let's start with first generation language. So to understand first generation language, we need to go back to 1940s when the computer was not at all available that much effectively. So that time the scientist was thinking more about binary coding, that how basically with the switches of 1 and 0 we can interact, we can just add two values, subtract two values. So the first generation language is based on this concept only, and that's the reason it is called as the machine language, because the code, the any logic, any algorithm we was writing in terms of 1010 format. And as you know, we are writing things in binary format, so it is directly interacting with the CPU, and which makes these machine language a very fast, very high speed, because they are interacting directly to the processor, to the CPU. But again, the disadvantages are because it is machine dependent, the complexity is very high, it is too much error prone, because when writing all these binary codes, if we are missing a single digit, then it's completely impact to the entire logic, entire code. And again, it is quite a very tedious job to write such languages. So in order to problems with all the first generation languages, scientists start thinking one step ahead, and then they come up with the second generation languages, which usually known as assembly language. So assembly languages allocate a mnemonic code for each instruction. So what that mnemonic code is, for a particular command, for a particular logic, we actually define a mnemonic character which actually going to convert into machine language using the assembler. So again, the language is using assembler to convert from the assembly to machine language. So it was a bit less faster than the machine language, but it was less error prone, because now we need not to write things into the binary, and we got a very nice assembly language with us, so we can write in that. But again, the problem was machine dependent, it was, but the complexity is again too much in the development, and it was a lot of tedious work we actually do to develop an assembly language, and which actually causes the slow development time. So these were some of the disadvantages of the second generation languages. In order to solve all these disadvantages, and the scientists, the people start thinking about the third generation languages, and these are the first languages where scientist and the programmer introduce the conditional statements, the loops, the data type, and it's actually um, use the reuse the blocks. It's actually reuse the logic, the code which actually we write, and then a procedural programming, modular programming concept starts in picture. So in order to start, in order to run the third generation languages, we need a compiler, which actually known as a translator, which actually convert this high level language to the low level language, I mean to say to the machine language. So third generation languages are the high level languages, which actually known as, and some of the example for these high level languages are the Fortran, QBasic, COBOL, Pascal, C, C++, C Sharp, Java. All these languages are available in the third generation languages. So here, from the modular programming to the procedural programming to the object oriented programming to the functional programming, all type of evolution is there in this particular generation. Again, the advantages are too much for this type of language, because there was very less error prone. it is really easy to debug. That means it saves a lot of time, lot of development time, and the maintenance is quite easy for these type of languages. Now let's move to fourth generation language. So in the fourth generation language, actually moving to more human language. It's like as we in the form of thinking, the conceptualization, so that the human thinking process actually they are trying to simulate in this particular languages. So most of the database queries, most of the data manipulation, analysis and reporting, then generator, GUI creator, mathematical optimization, and report generators, all these type of processes, all these type of scenarios actually use this four generation languages. Some of the examples are SQL, Octave, MATLAB, Python, and Pulse also is fourth generation languages. But there's a debate between a lot of scientists that they are the advanced 3GL or the 4GL languages. And there are a lot of advantages of fourth generation languages, like it is less error prone, easy debugging, low development cost, and maintainability. So it's like fourth generation languages basically evolving a language in terms of simulating or emulating the human. So how the human think, how the human conceptualize, how the human language basically are there in the world. So these languages is trying to simulate and emulate that part. And then with this, it actually start generating the 5GL, which basically introduce the artificial intelligence and machine learning concepts to the language, which automatically solve the issues, which automatically write down the logic in itself. So these type of languages known as the natural language, and it actually resembles too much with the human speech. So in case if something is not working, if in a speech if some misspell is there, then the mind automatically changes that, right? So in that way, natural languages automatically correct the issues. It actually automatically write down the entire logic. So it's completely artificial intelligence and machine learning concept introduced to that, and it's actually a way smarter. So it's making the computer too much smarter for us. Some of the examples for these languages are Mercury, Opus 5, Prologue. And again, the advantage is too much. There is no error prone. It is easy to debugging. Development cost is very low. Maintainability, autocorrect mistakes. So there are so much, advantages of these fifth generation languages. With programming languages generation, actually we understand how computer evolves with time, how human programming skill evolves with time, how our word, our real life evolve with all these languages generations, because these languages nowadays play a vital role in all the gadgets that we have and in real time problem.